let's move to the series that I just love and adore across the board. The Suns Clippers. My dog. Also, Penny,
Oh, that
also a
was
fan of
incredible.
Suns Clippers. Just going nuts. I have no idea what's happening. I'm in my office, like in the back of my house right now. Someone could be outside my door. Who the hell knows?
Timing straight up could not have been better. That was amazing.
Could have been better. It rules. Okay. Suns Clippers. Give me some takes, Mark. I'm going to go make sure nobody's breaking into my house.
Yeah.
I will be able to hear you the whole way. So continue.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot to parse through in this one. I think one of the first things that stood out in game one, the just sheer lack of depth for the Suns is killer. Like, that, again, duh. But also, I did think it was very, it was definitely a sore spot for them when they had some struggles in the starting lineup and finding their offense. Especially against the Clippers team that does have a lot of answers off the bench and a lot of ability to be multiple and change things up. I think that's something we're going to continue to look at throughout this series that is going to be very fascinating. Like, we saw Monty Williams try out a couple of things last night. Did not stick with them for long. Like, I think Damian Lee played 3 minutes. TJ Warren got a 2-minute stint. And ultimately they kind of wound back to going back to most of the regular rotation. So I'm interested to see what that looks like and how they continue to look at that. I'm assuming that we're not going to see much of the bench still. I have been surprised at the not that they played him a ton, but Ish Wainwright played a lot in game one. I don't think that's going to continue throughout. But again, like, I do think they found a little bit more like, okay, we can play Josh Okogie more. I thought Josh Okogie was really good in game two. That was something that I thought that they just kind of needed to do throughout. That was one of the things that was a little bit surprising me in game one, like not just rolling with Josh a little bit more. Like, granted, they needed offense. It wasn't just like we need the defense, but just his ability to be impactful going towards the rim and bringing his freneticism, even if it's not perfect, I think matters. I know that's like much more minutia than anything else, but I do think when you're looking at what this team is top to bottom, that part definitely played a big piece in game one.
So yes, I completely agree with you. To me, this is like all process versus results so far. The process for the Clippers is way better than the process for the Suns right now, because the Suns are still
young. Can I also give a take? They have no shit, but they have the best player in the series. Kawhi has been unreal.
Kawhi's been unbelievable. But like everything from like shot profile to rebounding to just like intelligent basketball, I think across the board, the Clippers process has been way better. They just don't have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. They have like one of those guys in Kawhi Leonard, and that is what makes this hard, right? I think that the Suns are getting like 25% of their points right now from mid-range shots, which is aggressive. And, even by Suns standards is aggressive. This series is just like bizarre in a number of different ways. Cause I felt like when I was watching the first game, I watched it live and then went back and rewatched it. While I was watching it live, I was also at Bloodsoe's barbecue in LA. And it's just like the best barbecue you'll find like in LA. So I was like stuffing my face with brisket. But as I was watching the game, I was like, this is a lot of Chris Paul late in the game. This is a lot of like Chris Paul ball screens and then trying to use Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the weak side in order to try and like isolate Chris Paul one-on-one and isolate DeAndre Ayton into easy lobs and things like that. In game two, it felt like the adjustment was, oh no, we're just going to put Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on ball more because those are our two dudes. And we're just going to let it rock, especially in the second half. And in game one, I want to shout out Jason Timpf. I was texting with him. Jason noted to me that Kevin Durant ball screen opportunities had a 1.4 point per possession mark in like 13 possessions that they ran it. In game 2, it felt like, again, like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant ball screens were the team's best offense. And I think that that's what they should be doing more of. They should just be letting those two dudes rock, use Chris Paul as the weak side bailout option, and then finding offense that way. It's a fascinating series across the board, though, because you're right. They don't have a lot of adjustments that they can make. And Ty Lue is very fucking good at adjusting and like causing you momentary lapses in what you want to run because of how good he is at just shifting defensive coverages and going zone one possession, dialing up, the right time to blitz a ball handler, dialing up the right time just to play drop, the right time to put in Zubats, the right time to go smaller. He's really good at just gumming up the works, and the Suns don't have a lot of answers. If your fastball doesn't work, they don't have an off-speed pitch. They're kind of like, Aroldis Chapman when he first came up, right? And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the series, especially given the level that Kawhi is at right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, like you're saying too, like even just looking at the Clippers, like what they've been able to get from multiple looks has been really enticing. Like Mason Plumlee has given them some really good looks. Zubac has been really good in this series. I think obviously game 1 was better for him than game 2, but even like Terrence Mann has given them really good stuff. Russell Westbrook had one of the weirdest games of all time, and that was so fun to watch, but also painful. And then it ended up being awesome. Like that was wild. I'm trying to think about where I even want to go next with this. I think Norman Powell was really important too, and somebody I want to continue to see. Like this team hasn't even shot that well from deep. It's mostly been heavy lifting from Eric Gordon and Kawhi. And then everything else has just been kind of in the balance a little bit. How do you feel about this heading back into geez, can I speak? Heading back into Los Angeles?
I think that there is a significant talent disparity without Paul George on the court. And I still think that the Suns' talent trumps the many adjustments that the Clippers can make plus Kawhi. I do. I think if Paul George was in this series, I think I would pick like the Clippers in 6 or 5 even. Mm-hmm. Like I think the Clippers have some real structural advantages on the Suns here that they're gumming up the works and causing issues with. I just don't think they have the dudes, which sucks. Like I get that. I just think that it's way too difficult for them to stop Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. Like that's not great analysis. It's just that when you put the ball in the hands of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, then you have one of them on the weak side, and then your third best perimeter defender is on Chris Paul. It's really hard. It's just a really, really hard, difficult guard. On top of it, I will say this, like I talked about, like the fact that I don't think the Suns have a lot of adjustments. It's been weird to me that the Suns have been so steadfast in playing DeAndre Ayton as like a drop big so far, as opposed to playing him in his mobility a little bit more aggressively. Because I feel like the whole value add with DeAndre Ayton defensively is that he is versatile. You can use him in different ways at the level of ball screens, in switches, in opportunities like that. Whereas like as a drop defender, he's just okay. And I would like to know more about why they're doing that, I guess. And I would like to see them switch up coverages a little bit more. I think that could give them a real value at some point within this series.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see that too. My assumption right now is just because of the glass. They got killed by some of the moments when they did play him in a shorter drop, and Russ beat the shit out of them on the glass because of what their weak side was. Granted, like Russ had an out of body experience rebounding like that, but also when it happens the 5th time, like you got to be fucking better than that in the playoffs. So I think that probably played part of it because rebounding has been not like their biggest problem, but I don't think their defensive rebounding has been fantastic this year. Let me check the numbers. I'm trying to remember. Um, yeah, they're 19th in defensive rebounding this season, which, yeah, sounds about right. 17th in defensive rebounding percentage. So, yeah, that has been an issue for them just because they don't have a ton of size. Like, obviously, when you have Kevin Durant out there, that makes it different. But with some of their bench lineups and, running a pretty small, 1 through 3, that's hit them quite a bit. I want to say, too, because we haven't even mentioned his name. Well, actually, 2 things. Number one, Book has been awesome in this series.
As an
The
all-around player,
Yeah, the
particularly,
game
I
he
think.
played in game 1, I think what was so frustrating for me in watching that game, like, I have no rooting interest in this series, but that's, like, the best defensive game I've ever seen Devin Booker play. He was incredible.
Yep.
On the ball, off the ball, his rotations were unreal. What did he have, like, 4 blocks in that game? He's just so good. Or no, I think it was 2 blocks. I can't remember, but regardless, just
Yep.
awesome in that game, and so it sucked to see that go the way that it went. Like he's granted 2 games, so it's not like crazy, but 32 points and 6 assists on 59, 40, 86 splits. Like he's been unreal. And I want to keep. I just love watching him play in the playoffs. But also, second thing, Torrey Craig. I get like it's not perfect when he's the roll man and it's him rolling into having to take free throw line shots, but he's hitting them. He's been really good in what
Yep.
he's been asked to do. I think the defense has been solid. I think like he's hitting way more shots than I think you even expect for him to hit in the entire series. Like he's taking 6 threes a game and hitting almost 60% of them. Like he's doing everything that they've asked. You could ask for him. I am interested to see what that looks like when he's not shooting 71% from the field. But I've been pleasantly surprised with what he's brought in the series. But again, I think that also just kind of speaks to like they really cannot have any kind of drop off from their stars because if you have okay, well, what about the game when Craig goes like 2 of 9 from the field? What does that look like? What does that mean? Yeah, there's a lot that I want to see in this series still. I think it's the one I'm most not most fascinated by, but most like curious about how it's going to play out.
Yeah. And again, like I think this could go a number of ways just because of the level of Kawhi Leonard in this series. Like Kawhi in game 2 was worse than he was in game 1 and had 31 points on 20 shots with 8 rebounds and 7 assists and like had one of the best playmaking games as a passer I've ever seen him have. And that was the game where he was worse. Like the level Kawhi is at right now is astounding. What have you liked most about Kawhi in this series?
The just control has been pretty unreal. Like he's kind of owned the court. Like the not that like he's a very mechanical passer still, but he is just controlling everything happening. It's like watching somebody play chess against themselves. Like he's moving all the pieces wherever he wants with how strong he is, with his handle, with his gravity and opening things up, and he knows where it's going to be and when, and that's where all the playmaking comes from. And like especially in that game 1, like they just kind of didn't have an answer for him. And so I've really enjoyed watching that aspect. Like they don't have any way to stop him from getting to his spots. Honestly, it's just kind of hope that he misses and contest it and see how it goes. But yeah, just the sheer level that he's been at has been what's been most fun for me to watch.
Yeah, it's been great to see him get back to this after all of everything essentially that Kawhi has gone through over the course of the last few years injury wise. Is there a player in the playoffs that you would take over Kawhi Leonard right now?
Through 2 games, no. I think that he's been probably the best player in the playoffs,
Yeah.
which is not really a hot take. I mean, yeah, he's been unreal. Like, here's his numbers 34.5 points, 6.5 boards, 6 assists on 55, 60, 88 splits while getting to the line 9 times a game. So again, 2 games, but also that's crazy. So yeah,
Again, you and I did the awards conversation. What was that, like 10 days ago? Something
yeah,
like that. Um, this is why I had to have Kawhi as a third team All NBA player, because it hasn't just been these 2 games. It's been the last like 35 games of the year in addition to these 2 games, where Kawhi is, I think he's only missed like 5 or 6 games over that time as well. Like he has been in the lineup and he has been a top 5 player in the league basically since like the calendar turned. And it's wild. And I get that. But I mean, you just look at this. I mean, it is since January 8th, Kawhi Leonard in the 35 games that he played averaged 27.3 points, 6.8 rebounds, 4 assists versus only 1.8 turnovers, 53% from the field, 47% from three, 90% from the line. Just slightly under a 50-40-90 because he's at 89.7 from the line, actually. And since that first half of the season, it dovetails nicely. Every game since the 41st game that the Clippers played, he has only missed 7 games out of those 35. So he was on a 70 game average in the second half of the season while being a top 5 player in the league, in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
Kawhi has been like this now. This isn't a hot run. If I had to pick one guy that I want in the playoffs right now, right this second, as we're speaking, Kawhi would be number 1. I think KD might be number 2. And I think I'd probably say Giannis and Embiid are the next 2 for me. But that is the level that Kawhi Leonard has been on since the halfway mark of this season. And it's astounding to watch. This guy is the player that the Clippers thought they were getting, that ended the super team era, essentially, and is just an absolutely Hall of Fame level, all-time great within basketball. And if this, seriously, I'm just like genuinely enjoying every single moment we get healthy Kawhi Leonard, and just savoring every single morsel we get of healthy Kawhi Leonard, because I don't know how long we're going to get it for. You know what I mean? Like, just given what his career has looked like injury wise, given some of the degenerative questions, I guess, that there might be about his quads, his whatever it is, right? I don't know all of the details off the top of my head. For us to get this level of Kawhi Leonard again, I'm just going to savor it all and enjoy it for every single second.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a blast to watch, and I'm excited to see what happens next.